This episode of the CGFC official podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, the Caulfield Grammarians Association, Hammond Floors, Dorman Capital, Matias Group, ALH Group, ProBuild, Scholten McKissock Wealth Management, Bendigo Bank East Malvern, Club Warehouse, Besser & Co., Grilled Elsternwick, Urban Alley Brewery, and the Royal Saxon Hotel.
We're a bunch of unique individuals, Flanagan, Gotch, and myself. We're going to engage with our minds and our hearts. We're going to exchange ideas, thoughts, and even our energy. Sometimes you're not going to agree with us, but that's okay, because just like you, we care. We're passionate about the Fields. So if you want to come along for the ride, join us on the Fields podcast, because we just love the Fields.
Hello, Fields fans, and welcome to the first ever episode of the CGFC official podcast, the official podcast of the Caulfield Grammarians Football Club, brought to you by wonderful sponsors, the Caulfield Grammarians Association, Hammond Floors, Dorman Capital, Matias Group, ALH Group, ProBuild, Scholten McKissock Wealth Management, Bendigo Bank East Malvern, Club Warehouse, Besser & Co., Grilled Elsternwick, Urban Alley Brewery, and the Royal Saxon Hotel. My name is Toni Flanagan, and it's great to be here for the inaugural CGFC podcast, and I'm joined tonight by CGFC superstar Charlie Logan and CGFC reserves coach and Victorian cricket run machine Seb Gotch. And boys, there's plenty to talk about tonight with plenty going on in the world right now on the 2nd of April 2020. How excited are we for this massive first ever episode of the CGFC podcast?
Hello, Flanas. Yes, unbelievably excited to be here. And before we start, quick shout out to Brett Kirk for that opening intro. Great to have Brett as part of the CGFC podcast family. So thank you very much for that quick warmer-upper. Yeah, mate, I'm super excited to be part of the show, the inaugural Fields podcast in the club's 100th year. Not sure what we were doing for the first 100, not having a podcast up and about, but it's finally arrived and cannot be more excited to be here. We've got a big show ahead, boys. We've got two legendary guests straight off the bat. CGFC Premiership player and current captain Will Edwards is going to be joining us. And then we've also got CGFC Women's Premiership captain Toni Hamilton. So we've got all the big guns pumped to be here. Seb Gotch, great to have you involved as well, mate. How are you?
Charlie, Tommy, very, very excited. Feel very lucky to be a part of this podcast and been given an avenue to voice my very unpopular and irrelevant opinions. But I think this is going to be a great little way of keeping the CGFC community together and keeping everyone linked in through this pretty difficult time and hopefully keeping our eyes set on a return to VAFA footy in not too long.
Yeah, and that's what this podcast is all about. It's a vehicle for us to get all relevant Fields news and content out to you, our CGFC community. Charlie, Seb and myself will be having a lot of fun discussing all things to do with the club that we love, but also we bring you all the really important news updates and official information relating to the club throughout the year. And we think this is a great way for all Fields fans to stay connected during what is, as we've touched on, a very strange time. So make sure you subscribe and then tune in each week for a new episode to get your Fields fix.
Absolutely, Flan. And make sure to our loyal listeners that you're getting interactive with all of our posts that we'll be putting out on Facebook, Instagram, Instagram stories. We'll be flogging heaps of questions. So get involved. Give us some stuff to work with. We'd love to hear your thoughts, silly or otherwise. But yeah, make sure you get in contact with us if you want a shout out or anything like that. But the more material that we've got to work with from you guys, the better.
Are we giving shout outs, Charlie, or is that just going to be a little incentive to get people on board?
Give anything that people want, mate. I'm a massive person for the people. So if anyone wants to DM me, they can. That's not a free invitation just to get in the DMs, but
that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, it might be. But no, shout outs are always welcome, Seb.
Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, we want as much interaction and engagement from the CGFC community as possible during, as we touched on, this strange time with the coronavirus, the COVID-19 pandemic, which is pretty much forced the start of this show, and it's forced the closure of a lot of other things, including the mighty Fields and the 2020 VAFA season. So far, we're not sure whether the VAFA season will go ahead. At this stage, they're going to reconvene. They're going to have a meeting mid-April, and at this stage, they said round one's going to be May 4th, I believe it is. We're not sure whether that's going to go ahead. They'll have that meeting in April, and we'll find out whether we will get some footy this year in the VAFA. But the COVID, that's had massive implications on all of us. How are you guys dealing with it?
Getting there, Flanas, getting there, taking it day by day. Hang on, my old man's coming up.
Here we go. A timely interruption.
I'm doing my podcast, mate. Is that all right? Sure. You're just going to sit there?
He's more than welcome to stay. If you can actually change the headphones over, I think that might be a better option.
I think he's going. Yeah, he's heading off. We might have to cut that out, or we could include it.
No, that's staying in. That's absolutely staying in. This is just the sort of dynamic we're going to have to deal with. And people being at home and being forced to...
Well, this is it, isn't it?
Well, that's what's happening, mate. We're back with our families. We're back with our parents. So this is part of the deal. And I don't think the listeners at home are going to have any issue with that whatsoever. And we're used to your old man.
And they only got the audio, I think, of him walking up in his underpants. So that's all good. But, mate, to answer your original question, yeah, it's definitely weird, isn't it? I think, like, tonight's a great example. I would love to be sitting around a table looking at you guys and doing this podcast together, but we're on Zoom. Shout out to Zoom for coming out of nowhere and becoming a part of everyone's life as well. But yeah, it's a strange situation where we're all isolating away from each other, and that's definitely hard. And people will have their up days and their down days, but I think what we've got to do is use it as a bit of time to get better at some stuff that we always thought we could, or to reach out to someone that we haven't spoken to in a while. And just use the time as best as we can that we wouldn't usually have.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good shout, Charlie. I think this podcast is a really good avenue for the CGFC community to get in together and just check in on each other and see what's going on. And as we said, with interaction and getting on Facebook and Instagram, there's always an opportunity to post some questions or even answer them as well. So make sure you get on there, you stay involved in this, and we'll do our best to keep everyone as active in this podcast as we can.
And it's strange, even if we were able to sit in the same studio and do this together, we'd have to sit 1.5 metres away. There's no handshakes, no hugs. So even if you do interact with your mates, you're only allowed to interact with two people at a time. But if you see a mate, you can't give him a hug. You can't give him a handshake, high five. I find that very difficult because,
yeah, it's definitely a weird one. How are you guys enforcing the 1.5? I've got my own strategy for it. Do you guys have any of how to gauge 1.5 metres?
No, not really. What have you been doing? Carrying around a ruler?
No, I've been carrying around a mental image of Seb horizontal between two objects, and thinking if I can fit little Seb in there, I have to stay away from that thing. That's what I've been running with. I don't know about you guys.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, no, Go on, Flad.
I don't have response to that. I don't have anything better than that, so I'm going to run with that from now on.
Right, I've been thinking that all week, so I'm stoked to get that one away early.
And we're off.
So how else has the COVID affect you? There's been a lot of people have had their work affected. I myself, I've lost a couple of bits of work through this COVID pandemic. How are you guys going with your work life?
My work life is pretty steady still, Flanas. I'm a physio. I lost one of my days of work, so I've just lost hours essentially. But that's fine. Like I'm part of a massive community of people that are having their work affected. Still working enough hours, been able to move home. So like I'm fine. I have no real complaints. Be interesting to see what happens if we go further, like how much more hours I could lose, but at the moment still pretty steady.
Yeah, that's lucky, Charlie. I think I'm pretty lucky with the time of the season right now, where we sort of came to the end of the season at April, and we would officially be on holidays now anyway. So quite fortunate in that sense. I know my old man, he's working at Collingwood, he's lost his job, and along with 80% of the football community as well. So there's some people doing it really tough out there. I'm having trouble having so much time on my hands. There's been so many things that I've always said, if I had the time to do that, I'd get that done. And now that I'm sitting at home doing absolutely nothing, I've just convinced myself that I was lying all those times. I have no motivation to do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with that.
What about your cooking career, mate? How's that going?
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of cooking here and there. Made some banana bread the other day, which was almost edible. So we're making inroads. But I think you look at Jamie Oliver and all these different guys, they prepare their meals so well. And that's what I'm having difficulty with. If I want to cook, I'm hungry, so I want to eat. So I'm not really preparing the food like it should. But that's probably a discussion for another topic. But yeah, cooking's going okay. Thanks for asking, Charlie.
You're comparing yourself to the naked chef, mate. That's a tough ask. That's a high bar, even for you.
Aim high.
Two height jokes, and I'm away.
Yeah, here we go. So the podcast is going to be about small and tall jokes. Nice.
Yep.
So how are we using this isolation time? What sort of activities are getting us through our days at this point? I know for me, I've been had work, but when I haven't been at work, I've been doing a bit of run out practice in the backyard, just throwing down the one stump, and I've enjoyed that thoroughly. I don't know how many more days I can do it and still get the enjoyment that I am right now, but right now it's going well.
We just have to keep testing your flat. That's what we have to do. We have to get someone over there to run between the wickets and really put some pressure on you. I know you're probably at home, you got no crowd. Maybe your next door neighbour's looking over the fence, but there's no pressure. So I know what you're like. And when there's a bit of pressure around, you tend to step up a little bit. So that's what we might need to introduce over the coming weeks.
And Seb, you've basically nominated yourself because you're the premier runner. I can't speak. You're the premier runner between the wickets, in my opinion, in the country. I don't know if I've seen any man move with such haste between wickets than you. It's outstanding, mate. So I reckon you should get involved in that little.
It's not something that just falls into your lap. You do have to train it, and I think that being my greatest skill set is, whilst it's sort of alarming, it's also nice to be recognised to be a terrific runner between the wickets.
Oh mate, you fly. You definitely fly.
Terrific.
So as well with COVID, we're obviously missing footy a bit, and the mighty Caulfield Grammarians Footy Club, which this podcast is all about. Charlie, you're in the playing group, the senior playing group. How did you see the group travelling before the pause in our pre-season?
Really well, Flanas. I was very optimistic about how we were going to go in our first round of practice games against Brighton and Xavier, and then into round one against OMs. Obviously, it's impossible to know how you're going to go going up a division when you haven't been up for so long. And then the last time you're up, we didn't win a game. So impossible to know. But I can't think of a better way to go up than to beat Scotch for one in a granny by 90 points, and then to get guys in like Jono and Dane, Woodsy. I don't reckon you can be better prepared for going up a division, but impossible to know really because we didn't get to play any practice games. But the vibe was good. The vibe was strong around the club. So it is a bit of a shame, but if the season does get started again, I'm sure we'll be really strong and competing pretty hard.
It's so much.
I think sorry, Flan, you go, mate.
Yeah, I was just saying there's so much excitement for the year. It's the 100th year of the club. There were a lot of functions planned. We brought in some great players from around the country and look to be a side that can contend in A grade this year. And the halt to it, it's just frustrating for all of us, players, coaches, administrators, supporters. It's very frustrating.
100%. And I think we definitely looked into our history a bit. Like all the players knew that it was our 100th year and what that meant. So the timing of that and to have this happen is obviously not great, but I'm not sure what the plan is next year. But whenever we get out, men's and women's and 19s, the whole club, I know that we'll be pretty raring to go for our 100th year.
And Seb, you were going to touch on that before I interrupted you.
No, I just think that being such a young list as well, going up, it's going to hurt some other clubs a lot more than it's going to hurt us, this little break and this time off period. So whilst there is some uncertainty and some, I guess, a little bit, we're sort of seeking a bit of clarity going up to that next level. I think having that extra time to really get ready and make sure our guns are blazing when we do hit round one or whatever round it will be, I'm sure we'll be ready and raring to go.
What are your thoughts on like a 4-round season? Could that be a thing? Like you play?
I don't know if it can. I don't think it can in the fair sense. pending who you play, it has to be a limited, however many teams in the comp. I feel as though you have to play that many rounds for there to be any sort of fair season to go ahead. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. I wouldn't be surprised if they call it a lot sooner than anything else, really. It's just, in all serious terms, it's just a game of football, isn't it? So there's a lot more going on in the world that we need to address, and this might be something that they just pull the pin on early. Otherwise, who knows? We could actually go ahead with whatever that date was scheduled, like May 4th. You said Flanas or something like that.
Correct.
May the 4th. That's Star Wars Day, isn't it?
May the 4th.
May the 4th be with the Fields.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully the 4th is with us, but yeah, if not, we'll reconvene next year. But hopefully we do go ahead. And Chaz, how have you been keeping fit? Because obviously we're not allowed to train as a group. It's a great motivator being able to train with all the boys, a big pack of 50, 60, 70, 80 guys every Tuesday and Thursday. Now you have to do your training by yourself or with one other. Is it more difficult to get yourself geared up to do that?
100%. There's nothing better than doing a bit of fitness work with 50 to 60 adolescent males. That really gets me going. But seriously, to answer your question, just doing some stuff in the backyard. I've been doing body fit training with Lachlan Kellogg. Shout out to Lachlan Kellogg if you're listening. My housemate. He's turning into a triathlete, so I've kind of been hanging on to his speedos in a way, and been doing body fit with him. But since that's closed, then they opened an app, which is just basically like 40-minute workouts at home, which have been good. But besides from that, mate, not much. I'll be interested to hear what Will has been doing, and someone who's right at the elite level at the VAFA, how they spend their time in this period. But yeah, just stuff in the backyard, a few beach weights, a few dips. Yeah, Seb, anything from you?
I've actually been out the back doing a bit of training with Malvern, and he has a tendency to get his top off and get into his work. So as I'm training, I can vision what I could potentially look like with lack of work rate. So it's quite alarming whilst quite motivating at the same time. And we're having little battles out there and trying to keep each other sane. But having that little mirror effect has been nice.
Seb, you recently told me that you were going to use this period to become the strongest you've ever been. How's that going for you? Are you seeing any initial?
A week in, I'm not seeing great results. I guess this extended period and the uncertainty around how long it will go for is allowing me to push things back. But we spoke about the other day, writing a list down and having a list there, so you know what you've got to try and accomplish the next day instead of just falling into a pretty lazy bubble. So that'll be my, I might put that on my list, to write a list and get everything sorted and just get on the front foot. Exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
What would a typical backyard session look for you, mate? We're talking a few bicep curls, a bit of ab work, or is it more just for defence shadow batting?
A little bit of defence shadow batting. I tend to do a bit more of that in the bathroom, in the shower. But when I'm out the back, a little bit of Damien Simic bicep and tricep curl. I did notice that Daniel Gray was on the treadmill this afternoon as well, so I'm not sure whether he's preparing himself for a comeback or what's going on there. I know his brother might be interested in getting on the treadie and getting himself right for whatever round we start playing. We could certainly use that Stuart Dew-like raking left foot, but there's mud guts. There's not a lot going on out in my backyard, Charlie, apart from a lot of staring into reflecting mirrors or windows and just admiring a little bit.
True.
That's why we're starting this podcast, isn't it? Because we're running out of things to do.
Yeah, nothing to do.
Yes. Correct.
All right, we'll move into the first segment on the CGFC official podcast. And Sebi, this is your one. Your take on the COVID pandemic, and you got a few thoughts on it.
Yeah, I'm going to start you straight away, Flanas, with expert opinions. Now, I was having to think today of how we address this COVID-19 update, and the big thing for me is if I don't know something, I seek expert advice to help learn and know what to do. What it feels like to me at the moment is we have so many different people wanting and trying to be experts that I don't know what's going on. Now, I know Stephen Hood, self-proclaimed expert at everything. He's been okay. He has been okay. But there are other people out there in the community that are telling each other what to do and how to do it. Let's just all shut up, stay at home and listen to the one person, and whether it's right or wrong, buy into it. Like we're listening to Simon, or like half of you are listening to me on match day, just buy into the one cause and we're going to fix it all. That's it.
Trust
Yeah,
Scotty.
we've got to put faith in ScoMo to a degree. But yeah, the frustrating thing is sometimes he says stuff that contradicts itself. So it's up for interpretation, which I reckon is hard.
I reckon though. I reckon if you sit down and you just figure it out a little bit, we're old enough to not be told we need 5 people here or 10 people there. We've been told that we're suffering from a major virus that can be transmitted so easily. So it makes sense to limit your associating with people and limit your parties and all that sort of stuff. We don't need to be told an exact number, and we don't need to argue how many. We just need to sit down, shut up, stay in your house and figure things out.
And I think the majority of the CGFC community are abiding by that, and maybe all of the CGFC community. But it's frustrating for guys like us who are doing the right thing, staying at home, when you see scenes on the weekend of people down at Mornington Peninsula Beach just packing it out, 10,000 people there, people at St Kilda Beach, 15,000 people, 20,000 at Bondi a couple of weeks ago on a Friday afternoon. That's quite frustrating for us who are doing the right thing.
Yeah. And, it would have been interesting to see, Seb, if they had shield games on during this period, because they probably still would have allowed the gates to be open. Only 1 or 2 people go to watch. That would have been an interesting prospect. But no,
one or 2 people, Charlie. It sounds like a patient list at the physio clinic coming in.
Sensitive topic at the moment, mate. Sensitive topic. But no, I do see what you're saying, mate. I think it's at the end of the day, we've got to try and do what's right and stay home. And it sounded like the inner coach coming out in you a little bit there as well. Just, telling people to sit down, shut up, and, don't kick across goal, or sit down, shut up, and just man up. Was I correctly picking up on that angle?
Man up, absolutely. I'm sure Alex Love, who's listening, would have heard that a couple of times, but yeah, you're absolutely right. The inner coach has to come out at some point.
So, Seb, who do you reckon at the Fields is the most likely to get infected first?
Wow. I think Charlie's actually a really good chance. I know that I did some research, and last year 3 of his 4 hamstrings came on the back of a big Saturday night. So what that says to me is he's got a poor immune system. His body can't handle being pushed to the extreme, and this situation right now is an extreme situation. So, he's moved back home. He's with the folks. He's trying to do everything right because he's trying to set up some sort of barrier to hold him within and not let this virus take over. And with that poor immune system, he's every chance to go down.
And who do you reckon last? Who's last?
Charlie, don't get a response on that one either. I think last, there's a couple of different people. I've mentioned Stephen Hood a bit earlier. He's a strange one because even if he did get it, he'd argue with you that he doesn't have it. I think Aussie,
Aussie won't be getting it.
Well, I think we'll skip right through that. But I just hope that no one does get it, and I hope that everyone's doing the right thing to avoid contact. But if we can make fun of it for now for a little bit, we will. But please don't take that in the wrong manner.
No, it's very pragmatic of you, Seb. I reckon we got to look at it as in from a footy perspective. Who is always in the most space? Who is distancing on the field? I'm not sure if you guys saw the VAFA Instagram from the other day. None other than Tate Short. I understand why he was posted, because he's probably the most gorgeous man I've ever seen live. He got his own social media VAFA post, so he'd probably be one that would be least likely just because he's always in so much space, according to the VAFA. I don't know if you guys saw that one, did you?
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I could not take my eyes off it.
Yeah, he's good looking. It's ridiculous.
He's so good looking. Did you see the video he put up today of him using that handball thing? It took me 4 watches of the video to realise that he was actually handballing. I was lost. And he's put on a bit of size as well. You can tell with the weights are at the back. So he's going in the right direction. He just keeps doing things that keep him.
But I tell you what, he's also a great bloke. He's a better bloke than he is a footballer, and he's a pretty handy footballer. So that's all I'll say.
Yeah, nice. Good call. Good call.
And who do we think's most likely to have absolutely no idea at all that COVID's even happening?
That's a great question.
Oh boy, Tex has got to be up there, doesn't he? I'm not sure the virus could actually live under Tex's body conditions. So there might be method to his madness in that one. I'm not sure if you have any, Charlie.
Maybe Scott Williams, just because he's just got no idea what's going on in society.
Period. Yep. Agreed.
It was more of an age. That was more of an age type joke.
Yep.
Just because he wouldn't have a phone, would he, or any access to the internet? I wouldn't have thought.
Well, I know that he has been posting some stuff in our WhatsApp group. That's a little Collingwood WhatsApp group we got with a few of the boys. So he tends to get pretty vocal there. Really strangely vocal as well. He'll take to that platform, that WhatsApp platform, to just have a go at random people and random clubs. So yeah, no, he definitely could be a candidate.
That's a frustrating group, the Collingwood group at CGFC. I can't really wrap my head around it.
Well, you wouldn't be able to, coming from that Malvern background. You don't want to be associated with other followers. So we do. So I wouldn't expect you to understand.
Yeah, it's just a bit in your face. It's a bit much for mine.
I love my little Bloods chats with Jeff Scotland at every training session. It's glorious. Don't get too many Bloods around, but
someone who wouldn't know about COVID, I would say Jeff Scotland might be up there.
Yeah, sorry. We missed a real obvious one there, didn't we? Bloody hell. Jeff's still working. He's been going to work every day wondering where everyone is.
He's had the vision up on Tuesday night ready to go. He's just wondering.
We might move on from COVID. We've covered a lot of the
get rid of
COVID stuff, so we can move on from COVID now. And we've got another segment, another one hosted by Seb. This is the news story of the week. Sebby, what do you got for us?
Very good question, Flanas. My news story of the week is Donald Trump. Now, I'm not going to make any big claims, but I'm going to ask, do we think Donald has panicked and all of a sudden started saying different things? I've seen videos, I've seen tweets, I've seen all sorts of things of his quotes and what he thinks is going on with COVID-19. But now, just tonight, we saw him on the news and he's delegating a lot of the answers to all the professionals. Has Donald caved in?
Donald would have to be the single most idiotic human currently alive, would he not? Like, he has no idea. It's
close second to Nick Thompson.
Nick's a close second, and then there's Daylight. But he is just, I got sent this video today from TJ Rathel. Shout out to TJ if he's listening. And it was Donald Trump like mispronouncing words, and like he can't speak English. He mispronounces the easiest words. It was quite funny. We could get it on the social somehow. I don't know, but yeah, he's a complete moron.
It's still such a novelty. Like him, I can't get out of my mind just him on The Apprentice like 15 years ago. Like you failed. I've still got that in my head. I can't take him. I've never been able to take him seriously at any point in his presidency, even if he said something good.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. And I think the fact that it's now got to the point where so many lives are being lost, it has to be taken away from whether you're making decisions based on 5 months' time when the election is or whatever happens over in America. You just got to make decisions now based on saving lives. And whilst I understand being a leader would be incredibly difficult, I think the way he started this whole campaign against the virus was a little bit lackadaisical.
He was saying that like he called it the Kung Flu or something, didn't he?
The Kung Flu was apparently a term used by someone in the White House, which is awful. But all those questionnaires that he stands up the front and lets people talk to him about different things, they're all just another platform for him to sound better or to have a go at someone else. It's never actually there to help the people. Speaking as a true American, we're getting a little bit sidetracked, but yeah, I don't like Donald Trump.
I was going to say, this is deep political chat for the inaugural CGFC podcast.
Yeah, we've gone hard early.
Straighten us up, Flanas, as well.
Yeah, he may be a bit of a deluded operator, Donald Trump, but we won't talk about him anymore because he's not about CGFC. This is the official CGFC podcast, and that is the first part of our episode. We'll be back after this message from our sponsors.
This episode of the CGFC official podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, the Caulfield Grammarians Association, Hammond Floors, Dorman Capital, Matias Group, ALH Group, ProBuild, Scholten Collins McKissock Wealth Management, Bendigo Bank East Malvern, Club Warehouse, Besser & Co., Grilled Elsternwick, Urban Alley Brewery and the Royal Saxon Hotel. Enjoy the rest of the program, Fields fans.
Welcome back to the CGFC official podcast. We've got a very special guest on the Zoom call tonight for the very first inaugural episode of the CGFC official podcast. It is the Premiership winning skipper from the 2019 Premiership team for our senior women's team, Toni Hamilton. Toni, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Very nice to be here.
So,
Welcome.
You're missing footy like we all are, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's a really weird time. It feels so strange. We would have had round one this weekend. So it would have been the first round where we get to wear our new Guernseys with our Centurion new jumper, and all the girls were getting excited. But yeah, this Saturday, first month of April, we will not be playing footy, which is very sad, and it doesn't feel real, to be honest.
Very weird. Very weird. How is morale with the girls, Toni? Are they sticking around each other? Is the Facebook group still going off? WhatsApp group, all that stuff?
Yeah, no, it's been really good. So we actually Mitch was still trying to organise sessions even at the start, when it all started, and we try to work out ways that we could all go to training and if possible, keep our distance and be really hygienic and have our own drink bottles. But then obviously with the government bringing out the regulations, it actually wasn't possible. So now he's been uploading files of workouts for us to do, and just continuously uploading, exercise for us to do. And then our WhatsApp group, every day we're posting what we're doing. We're doing some live Zoom sessions as well. We've got a few trainers in the group, so we've had 2 live Zoom sessions, and apparently I've hurt my finger, so I have been out for a little bit, but the girls said they were really tough. And yeah, the girls have just been chatting every day, supporting each other. The coaches have been great. Neil's been great, and the leadership group has also been reaching out to all the players individually as well, and asking if they need any, if they just need some support, someone to talk to, ideas of what they can do in terms of work, or just, physical exercise or help mentally. We're reaching out to them as well. It's been good.
Toni, I'll just ask you a real quick one just before Tommy comes in. In attempt to get you on this Zoom call, we sent you a link to get you in with all 3 of us. Now, did Flanas happen to send a link of 10 of his friends sitting in another room? And was there a bit of trouble getting onto this chat?
Yeah, he did. And I wasn't really sure what was going on. I just entered this random group of guys, and they kept on switching the screen, and I thought I was in the wrong group. Well, I clearly wasn't in the wrong group. And but then I thought it was a joke. And then he put me in the wrong group pretty much. So I got to meet some of his friends.
My bad,
nice,
Toni.
there you go. Well done, Flanas.
My bad, Toni. I've been doing a lot of Zoom calls in the last couple of days, so
that's all right. That's all right.
Flying out everywhere. But,
forgive you. That's all right.
I don't know if you guys
I've also never used Zoom, so I was like, this is really, everyone says it's a great app, and I'm like, this is really confusing, so that's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's a tough initiation to Zoom. I don't know if you guys have seen Hamish Blake's Instagram. He's doing this thing where he does Zoom for one more, and he'll just enter a random Zoom chat because someone in the Zoom will give them the ID for that chat. It's very, very funny.
That's so funny. I haven't seen it. I will check it out though. That's very funny.
That'd be a great idea. I'm just going to sit on Zoom just waiting for him to come in. Maybe we should try and get him on this one.
Maybe that's
Flanas, you can try and get him on your friend's one.
I'll flick him a link. I met Andy later.
Send him this link, yeah?
Yeah,
correct.
So Toni,
oh God.
Obviously this year we don't know how much of the season we'll get or whether we'll get a season at all, but last year was outstanding for the whole club, and the women's team winning our first ever senior women's premiership, which is just outstanding for the club. Congratulations on being the first ever CGFC women's premiership captain.
Thank you.
Take a lot of pride out of that, and great memories.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable season. I still am on a high, even though it's been, over 6 months now. But, we came a really long way. The first half of the season, we were a little inconsistent and we're finding cohesion within the playing group because we were having girls coming from the VFL as well. So we had about 10 to 15 VFL girls. So when they were coming in and out of the team, we didn't know how each other played. We just didn't know each other. And, you have to for teams to really bond, you have to know each other well on the field and off the field. So it really was the second half of the season where we bonded. We all believed in each other. We believed that we could achieve the ultimate goal. And, we came together well and we created history for the club. And it was one of the best days of my life. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Tony, just touching on that.
Unbelievable.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Charlie.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in on you. Charlie and I have got a little hand signal that we're sort of dealing with here, but for some reason, Charlie can't see my hand as when I'm trying to ask a question. But that's what it's going to be. Charlie, I just wanted to touch on, I think we talk about now the opportunities with girls sports and how in such a short time it's come so far. From your point of view, you get to lead not only the first team, but an entire female club. You get the opportunity to play on consistent basis now with the VAFA starting up the league as well. How important has this shift of girls footy been for you, and has it opened up any other avenues outside of footy?
It's been extremely important. I actually started playing 6 years ago for a different club for Ajax, and myself and one of the other girls, Chelsea Fisher, were the first ones that started playing for the club and started bringing girls together. And since then, it's just grown. So 6 years ago, it's grown significantly. It's amazing that girls have the opportunity to play the sport they love and feel as if they're equal. And especially at Caulfield Grammar, I played at 2 other clubs. So I played at Ajax, and then I went and did VFL for 1 year. But coming to Caulfield, I think it's one of the it's a club that really treats women equal as the men's side as well. We have a range of different coaches, managers, volunteers as well, and we have the opportunity to, the facilities as the same as the boys, which is fantastic. And I've actually was working. I've had a few. What have I done? I did some nutrition work for a women's team as well. So it's opened up some opportunities for me as well. And I think it's amazing that now we have the opportunity to play at such a high level and the competitive sport.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think the guys, I can only speak for myself, we get so much joy out of seeing the women's team being so successful. It's added to such a massive element that we didn't have to the club. I guess touching back on the premiership win, after all big premierships come big weekends, run us through what you guys did, how you celebrated. What was the end of the season stuff like?
The night after the grand final was the best night. I don't know, it's just the best. It's the best feeling to be all together after you've worked so hard, you've put everything on the line, and to win something with your family. It's, as winning the premiership with the boys as well, and to celebrate together and reminisce on the season and hold the cup and drink from the cup. And also one of our young players actually vomited in the cup after the night, which wasn't good.
Jesus.
So it got pretty wild.
I hope you didn't drink it.
The coach said he sanitized it a few times after, because then we did drink from it at Silly Sunday after. But it was unreal. The lead up to it, the day, I think 2 days before, Goddard came and spoke to us, which was really special. We just had so much support from everyone, from the club, from everyone involved, and then to the feeling of actually winning the premiership and also being in an inaugural women's team to win the premiership is unreal. It's something that you will never be able to beat that feeling.
Yeah. And Toni, before we let you go, just going into this season, if we do end up going ahead and playing some games this year, who are some of the players that have come into the club in the off season that have really excited you on the track? We've had great retention from the school. Any of those girls have come from the CGS?
We've got a few really big guns from the Caulfield from last year. So we've got a girl called Mason. And we've got there's about 5 of them that are really showing. They showed some really good signs in the preseason game that we had, and it's exciting because having Caulfield girls coming through and wanting to play for us, and they've committed, and they're starting to bond with the girls, and they had a big preseason, so that's really exciting. So some young blood back into the side, and we've also got some more. We've got some other girls coming from all the other clubs. We had a lot of interest. I guess the word's gone around that we're a great club and a great bunch of girls, and I think we've got almost maybe between 60 and 70 girls for the 2 teams, which that's a lot. So it makes it hard. It makes it competitive for both to get a spot in both teams, which is always what you want.
That's what we love, Toni. Women's footy at CGFC, absolutely flying. And thanks so much for your time on the first ever podcast. Toni Hamilton, CGFCW 2019 Premiership Captain, joining us on the show for the first show. Thanks, Toni.
Thanks, Toni.
Thanks, Toni.
All right, Fielders fans, we are back, and the big guns keep rolling out here on the inaugural CGFC official podcast. We just had Toni Hamilton, the skipper of the CGFCW seniors team, and now we've got the captain of the men's, the 2020 centenary year skipper, 2019 BNF winner, the Toodles Royals award winner, and all-round great bloke, Will Motor Edwards. Thanks for jumping on, Edo, mate. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Flanas, Charlie, Gotchy. Good to be here, boys. How are we?
Will, great to chat to you again, mate. Just before we jump right into things, I want to address one key point with you, mate, and it's about the time that you've been waking up over the past few days. I see that you're posting a lot of photos of either sunrise or sunset. I just want to get one thing clear. Are you getting up early or are you going to bed late? What is happening there?
No, getting up early, mate. Trying to get up early, go for a walk in the morning, and as I say, Gotchy, win the morning, win the day.
You've always said that.
That's correct.
That is something he has always said.
Have, mate.
As mentioned in the intro there, Wilbur, being named captain this year, obviously a huge honour to captain CGFC. What does it mean to you to lead the fields?
Yeah, it is a great honour to be named skipper, to get the reins after Nico and Smalley before that. Obviously both great leaders that I'll take a lot from the way they've led the club, obviously with some successful times in the last few years. So, I was really looking forward to getting stuck into 2020. Obviously the centenary year is a big one for the club. Obviously this COVID has sort of got in the way of that for the meantime, but the boys are staying fit and we'll be ready to go if in fact we do get the chance to have a crack this year. It's a massive honour. I've been watching Caulfield since I was just a 13 or 14-year-old watching my brother play. So to be named skipper is massive honour.
Well, do you reckon there's anything that you did in terms of coming from another club like you did? And I know probably getting back to Caulfield would have been pretty nerve-wracking, and you would have felt like you had to prove yourself in a sense. Do you reckon there was anything that you did that has led to now, obviously being skipper, coming off the back of a best and fairest, winning your premiership? Were there any things in your mind that you wanted to tick off in your return, or did you just want to go out there and play your best footy?
I think it's just about going out and enjoying it, really. Like, there's nothing I regret about going to play in the Eastern Footy League and try something new out of my comfort zone. Met lots of good people in doing so, but ultimately coming back to Caulfield and playing with a whole bunch of my good mates that I obviously went to school with and have known for a long period of time is the main element, I guess. Like last year, obviously winning lots of games plays a role, but it's definitely the most enjoyable year of footy I've had. And not even just on field, it's more so like off field, to be honest. Like seeing your mates Tuesday, Thursday, and then a few frothies on Saturday night is sort of the main attraction. And that's how good it that was the best bit, to be honest, was just seeing your mates and being able to talk to your mates more so than probably when I was in the Eastern, you sort of miss out on a few things, I reckon, with not seeing him as much. So yeah, that was probably the main thing, and that probably leads to playing good footy.
And with this COVID, what's going on now, it's probably more important than ever for the boys to be getting around each other. Have you been in touch with a few guys from the playing group and just checking in and seeing how they're going?
Yeah, that's definitely the main thing. I think footy is probably not at the forefront of anyone's mind at the moment. It's more so the well-being of everyone. There's obviously jobs are at risk, and it's a bit of a tricky time not being able to see your mates and being isolated, obviously. So I think speaking to Punchy and speaking to a few of the senior guys, the leaders, we tried to sort of put in place different things to try and get everyone engaged, try and keep everyone connected. Like obviously we normally post runs and stuff in the Facebook group, but it doesn't even need to be that. Just post anything. The more people are posting, the more people are communicating with each other, the better off we'll be. I reckon the last thing we want is people to just keep to themselves and not sort of speak up. We want an environment where people are comfortable to speak up, which is, I think, what we're getting into the last week or so.
Yeah, there's a difference between isolate and not communicating. You can isolate, but you still have to communicate. We've all been told to isolate, but you got to.
You're bloody right. You're bloody right.
Communication's got to go up, I reckon, Flanas, than more than normal.
Yep, and hopefully this podcast engage and communicate.
Special comments, Cameron Ling.
Get the talk up. I'm also here as well,
back.
Will. I'd just like to ask a question as well, mate.
Go for it.
We have been chatting about the strategies or the things that we're doing to like stay mentally active, physically active, like home workouts and stuff. I guess, what have you been doing, and is there anything that you've done so far that you've thought, gee, that was worth doing, that you want to share, or just any ideas for our listeners as to ways to stay mentally, physically fresh in this period?
PJ podcast as well, Will.
Yeah. Well, I reckon
Thanks.
For me, I reckon it's just about routine. Obviously, it's different working from home 5 days a week, and you're not going to the office and seeing everyone there. You're not going to footy after work and seeing everyone there. You're sort of not really interacting with many people day to day. So for me, it's about routine. Start trying to do the same thing each day. So I'll get up, go for a walk, get a coffee or whatever, and then sort of try and normalize it as much as you can. And then just, exercising, I reckon, is the key to sort of mental well-being. So I suppose, not that that's anything groundbreaking, but that'd be the recommendation, is just try and keep active, get outdoors and run as much as you can. But yeah, nothing too complicated about it, really. Just keep a routine and keep exercising, keep communicating.
And we know that the season's been delayed indefinitely, which is such a shame, because I reckon we were in a really good spot. Who was lighting up the track, mate? Do you reckon before we've got postponed, was there anyone that caught your eye, or any new players that you thought, geez, I can't wait to see them strut around on the weekend?
Yeah, it is disappointing, really, isn't it? Like, I think, what did we do? We did a whole pre-season, didn't even see an opposition. We played one intra-club, and that's about it. The season got suspended, so it is a bit frustrating. But to be honest, we were looking pretty like we had some serious momentum building into the year. The squad was looking pretty fit. Guys like Jesse Smith was one that really impressed. He was sort of gliding along the track towards the end there, and we know how good he is as a tap ruckman. And then you throw in the mix the sort of new guys we've added to the list with Jono O'Rourke. He's sort of really coming out of his shell towards the end there and providing some real leadership and tips to the younger guys. Dane Crognali, we know how much energy he has and how much he likes to talk. So yeah, all those sort of guys plus the existing squad. It was looking really exciting, but in saying that, nothing like a bit of adversity, and I'm sure Caulfield, if any club's going to come out of this on top, it'll be a club like Caulfield. So can't wait for us to get back into it.
So prior to all this COVID stuff happening,
You would have been pretty excited for round one, I'd imagine, leading the boys out for the first time. And you're probably still excited about it for whenever that first game is. What are some of the things that you had in your mind that you were really excited about for that round one game?
Well, it was just, you sort of build up in your head, don't you, what round one's going to be like, and you try not to get ahead of yourself, but you think about what it'll be after one game, sort of two games, then where we'll be sitting halfway through the year, and you sort of don't want to put limits on the year. But for me, it was just that first round, like, you build it up. It was at Elsternwick Park, which is obviously where we had some good times in 2019 against OMs, who very strong club, and they're also in their centenary year. So I guess for me, it was just building up to that. Like, you have a couple of practice matches before that to sort of tweak a few things and get the squad and get the crew looking sharp. And then it was just full head of steam into round one, which I was excited for. But as I said, we'll get our chance whenever that comes.
Well, just before we let you go, mate, I know that through a time like this where we're deprived of so many great things like catching up with your mates, parties, footy, all those sort of things. For me, the day we're released back into the wild and we can catch up with each other is going to be a really special day for me. I can't wait to go over to Charlie's house, have a few beers. What's something that you're really, really excited about? And what's something that's keeping you motivated through this pretty dark period?
Yeah, pretty similar, I reckon. I just look forward to going to a pub with all the boys and just having 100 pots.
What pub, Will?
I don't even know.
Pub in name on it, or maybe
the college lawn might be good in that outdoor area.
That's
just going somewhere where all the boys are, and
Royal
just being
Saxon
able to.
Hotel. Royal Saxon Hotel, proud sponsor of CGFC. I reckon that's the one to go to.
Are they letting you back in there now, Flanas, or is everything all good with them?
No, I'm all right. I'm fine.
I must be thinking of another one. That's right, yeah.
But that'd be it, mate. Just having heaps of beers and seeing everyone again would be the one thing, I reckon. Playing footy, all that sort of stuff.
Who'd be the first person that you'd break the 1.5 metre rule with, mate? Like, if you had all of us lined up, who would you straight over give them a hug? Who would that be?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably Kingers. Yeah. Kingers just seems like a huggable guy, doesn't he? And it's like you can really get round him as well.
Yeah.
It definitely be Kingers. Definitely be Alf.
You could probably fit a couple more in there if you're getting Kingers. He's more just an accessory, isn't he? Just under your left armpit.
Maybe Kingers and Locke Harris.
Great.
Good call.
That'd be a good combo. What about you boys? Am I allowed to return questions?
Yeah, no.
No,
definitely not.
I mean, I thought we agreed on no, but yeah, Flanas, who are you looking to break that 1.5 carrier with?
I want to give Jules a big hug. I can't wait to see Jules again. Give him a hug. I love Jules. I love it.
Yeah, Deboshi be a good one.
Yeah, we all love Jules. Yeah. Seb? You'd have to come to training first to give someone a hug, mate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I think Isaac. I think Isaac Moresby would be a really good one. I tend to abuse him a little bit more than usual, so he'd be a nice one to just wrap my arms around and just sort of patch things up there.
Loves his cricket, Moz.
Yeah, not a bad cricketer. Not a bad footballer as well.
Good public speaker.
Is he really?
Can do a funny speech.
Well, we should have got him on.
He should be your next guest. He'd be far more entertaining than me.
So,
we'll just
the glass half full type operators would say you're only as good as your last game. You know, looking at the positive, and
that is true.
Last year, the last game was a triumphant 92-point win against Old Scotch in the Premier B Grand Final of 2019. Reflecting on that, amazing experience to be part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't think the start of the day, I wouldn't have told you that it would sort of end like that. We'd win by 110 points or whatever we did, given we...
92.
92. I like the way you're playing it, though.
102, wasn't it? Goes up 10 points each year, doesn't it?
That's right. Sorry, mate. My mistake.
Anyway, I didn't expect to beat him by 120 points. yeah, it was unbelievable. When I watched the highlights again, like we were actually unstoppable. Like some of the guys, Aussie and obviously big Stephen Lachlan, were just on fire. So yeah, first senior flag, never forget it. Unbelievable.
What were your thoughts on one of your great long time mates, Tom Green, breaking his ankle in the grand final, and then continuing to play on, to hobble around? He actually kicked the footy with a broken ankle, believe it or not.
Isn't that just going to go down in folklore? Like that is incredible. And he reckons he still can't walk. I don't know if that's a bit of mayo, but what are we?
He's plenty of mayo.
8 months. We're 8 months on.
Yeah, I think he should probably just hobble off into the sunset, I reckon. But
I reckon.
Well, I tell you what, he doesn't have any issue with, Charlie. That's walking when he's in a chuka. He seems to be doing all sorts of activities when he's down there with the Dale, but then when he's back in Melbourne, all of a sudden the ankle's playing up, and you can't do anything with him.
I didn't want to bring that up actually, but here's the reason I've moved home, because I live with him and he made me self-isolate, so I've had to move home. But that's all right, Tom. I think he's enjoying a chuka. Shout out to Greenie if he's listening up there. Do they get reception up in Northern Victoria?
No.
Probably.
Well, ask Kingers.
Doubt it.
Yeah, Edo, before we let you go, I think we're throwing you under the bus a little bit here. We're springing you with a segment that you're now involved in, a new segment, as all these segments are new segments. Who Wears Who Wears? The first ever edition of Who Wears Who Wears, and I'm going to be the question. Three of you against each other. Edo, if you can beat the two hosts, then players are off.
I'll give it a crack.
The players are off to a good start with 1 point if you can get it right, and the hosts on 0 points if they can't get it right. But
so is it some sort of question get asked, or?
Yeah, no, it's a.
Yeah. Let him explain the game, mate. All right.
It's a Who Wears Who Wears, and the way you play Who Wears Who Wears, it's not say Who Wears Who Wears number X from X team.
Oh. Yeah.
With the correct player.
What's it called again?
Who Wears Who Wears.
Yeah.
and if I was talking about a past player who's retired, it would be Who Wears Who Wore. But we'll just go with Who Wears Who Wears.
Gotcha.
Who Wears Who Wears. Number 9 for Caulfield.
Will Tom Small.
Smalley, that's Logs. Logs got the point. 1 point for Logs. He was straight on it.
I was thinking Tom Small.
He was straight on it. He got in before you.
I was thinking Tom Small.
It was
no
Tom.
need to refer that. That was straight through.
This needs to go to the DRS. I thought you had to buzz in.
No,
Will is coming from Aries Inlet though, or Fairhaven, wherever you said. There is a time delay, so take that into account, Flan.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. Bit of delay. Oh well.
Bit like the delay there. Anyway.
There's always.
Jeez, we're fatiguing here a bit. Let's push on.
Okay. All right. So 1 point to C Logan. All right. Second round is AFL. Who Wears number 15 for the Western Bulldogs?
Jack McRae. Shit. Don't you two say no? Is there a time limit on it?
Do we
give us a clue, Flan?
How many guesses do we have each?
You don't get a clue.
If I'll give you a bit more time, and if you can't work it out, then I'll give you a clue. But
they don't need more time. They don't know it.
Bit more time. Number 15 for the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it?
It's got it.
Here's a clue. Here's a Caulfield.
Taylor Duray.
Taylor Duray is correct. Will Edwards.
That's
1 point to Logan, 1 point to Edwards, and 1 round to go. Sebi, can he tie it up? There will be a tiebreaker if Sebi ties this one up. All right. Caulfield Women's.
Tie it up.
Caulfield Women's. Who wears number 23?
Grace Buchan.
Nope.
Toni Hamilton.
Toni Hamilton is correct. And
Oh.
Carly Logan has won the first round of Who Wears. He goes up on the leaderboard. See Logan.
On the leaderboard.
And that's the start of Who Wears for the year. There'll be a round of that in every episode of the CGFC official podcast. Charlie Logan takes home the chocolates in the first one. Willie Edwards, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight, mate.
Thank you very much for having me, boys, and great initiative to get this going. Love it. Thanks,
Good on you,
Will.
Big Bill.
See you, boys.
So, mate,
Sweet dreams, buddy.
This episode of the CGFC official podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, the Caulfield Grammarians Association, Cam Hammond Floors, Dorman Capital, Matias Group, ALH Group, ProBuild, Scholten Collins McKissock Wealth Management, Bendigo Bank East Malvern, Club Warehouse, Besser & Co., Grilled Elsternwick, Urban Alley Brewery, and the Royal Saxon Hotel. Enjoy the rest of the program, Fields fans.
okay, now here's another segment on the CGFC official podcast. Another new segment. They're all new segments on this first inaugural episode of the CGFC podcast. And it's our social question. The social question segment. We posted up a question on all the social platforms during the week for the CGFC community to engage with. And that question was, who is your all-time favourite CGFC player and why? And we had plenty of engagement from the CGFC community. And we'll get things kick-started with Will Osborne. He said his favourite all-time player at the Fields is hands down Red Rocket. Scott Pincus played 100 games, named 3 times. Pincus.
Yeah,
Fair
Pincus
call
is
from
up there
Oz.
in terms of cult status. He's definitely a cult figure around the club. Big Pincus. Training 3 times is probably about right. I don't reckon I've ever seen him train, to be honest. So
Not once. Not once have I seen him in my 3 years.
We've also got Willie Edwards 9 has nominated Ben Carboni. What a man, best ever.
Charlie? I'll tell you a story about Carboni when he came back to play with us, and we were playing just on the Yarra there against Old Geelong, and I'm pretty sure he did both his hammies and wanted to keep playing. He missed the whole season. He missed the rest of the season, but he come off onto the bench and he's like, well, I can go back out there if you need me. And it turned out that he'd done both of his hammies.
That was a bizarre. As someone who's done numerous strings on both sides, doing 2 at once is pretty hard to do. So for that, I reckon he definitely gets a nomination.
Yeah, one of the all-time operators, Carbs. Cal Toomey said Andrew Sleverson, his 96-goal season was outrageous. Best hands you'll see. I remember that season quite well. Me and Cal called that season way back in 2008. Slevo was incredible.
Well, you have to take Cal's word as well. Being the AFL head that he is now, he must have an eye for detail. So if he's seen something in him, then I guess that must be big news.
Yep.
He could play, Slevo. Good play.
Good from the guru there, Cal. Good to see he's still connected with CGFC. We love having a draft guru down at the club. Hopefully,
head isn't too big yet.
Yeah, he still talks to us, which is nice. Another one we've got here, Just Perko, which is Justin Perkins, one of the great CGFC men and former PE 1-2 teacher of a few of the younger boys.
Great teacher.
Not sure about his PE teaching, but his footy at the club was pretty good. He's nominated Mark Liddell at Delhi 4444. Being named best on ground in a GF when you are 48 years old is an achievement we may never see repeated again.
That's incredible. To put that into comparison, Charlie, that's you twice.
Yeah.
48 years of age. You can't run out a game now at 24 or whatever you are. Imagine trying to do it at 48.
Mate, it'd be difficult. It would be very difficult. I don't know how he did it. I don't think he was actually 48. I think that was a joke, Seb. But nonetheless. Okay.
All right, and we'll go one more. Radar Riley had a few to mention. He said if Mark Liddell had not asked me how old my daughter was and her 2 friends were, he'd be the chance to be outright best. But no, he's given it to Choco, Mamba, Egg, Ando, Deli, and Wilsey. Hard to split from
Who hasn't he named, man?
Yeah, so was that just the past players of the last 15 years or?
Every past player, yeah.
Yeah.
He then goes on to say, other favourites, Spud C. Walsh for square-ups, Bosey and Turtle as team men. Had special talent, all of them. Baxter athleticism, and I'm old. Even saw Bill O'Halloran play 60 years ago, and he was a star. Do you guys remember Radar's reports that he used to write? I don't think he did them this year, but he would write a report that would, I reckon it would clock like 2,000 words. It was a serious.
Well, he just did then. You can see we gave him an inch and he's taken a mile on that site, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's really enjoyed that.
He would name people, he would probably name 18 blokes in his report. I reckon I'd go close to not being named ever in his reports, which was a good effort because he'd literally name everyone in the squad, I reckon.
Might just go one more before we finish off this segment. Cam Scholten said, Simon Wujaja, one of the best leaders and players the club has ever seen.
Yeah, Widge,
Seen
yeah.
too many blokes
Very
play harder at the ball than Widge did, and I think we all agree with that one. So there's all the responses from the CGFC community to our social question, which leads to our responses to the social question. Who is your all-time favourite CGFC player? And we're not just going to go with one. We're going to go with our top 5 players, our all-time top 5s from CGFC. And I've got my top 5. You boys got yours there handy?
Yep, absolutely.
Charlie, take us away, mate.
Well, my first cab off the rank here. Okay. So mine's more of a modern type CGFC list. I'll start from 5 down just to build a bit of suspense. Number 5, one of the best tap ruckman and full forward combos you'll see, Deck Riley.
Yep.
Probably one of our most important players over the past couple of years. So he's coming at number 5. Shout out to Deck.
Modern day great.
And then I've gone a heavy inside mid theme. I've got Jack Wallace at number 4. I liken him to the Dustin Martin of the VAFA. He's got an unbelievable stiff arm.
Yeah, weapon, Wally. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, that was good. Thanks for following me up on that one. And then number 3 would have to be my favourite non-CGFC or non-Caulfield grammarian CGFC, Nathan Page.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, good call.
his forward craft is unbelievable.
Yeah, Kraft is
Clever player.
ground level operator at the
Oh,
Lions.
yeah.
Yeah. And his dribbling goal against Scotch, that'll be etched in my
One of the
brain.
great goals.
Yeah. Just resurfaced on the CGFC WhatsApp the other day. That was
Didn't it? Yeah, perfect timing for that.
That got me through the day. Anyway, we're flying here. Number 2, neck and neck. And I've got him at number 2. He might be a bit upset with this, but Will Edwards.
Ooh, keep it 2.
Probably not.
He will be upset. Don't worry about that.
Probably, I wouldn't say he's an aerobic machine. He doesn't hit high speeds. You know, he waddles. But one of the best waddlers I've ever seen, can extract a footy, not distract. He's in number 2. And then number 1 to my Richmond colleague, Julian de Bosch, from, a Taswegian man. I think when he came in and kicked 7 on debut, I was like, holy shit. This guy can play. So he's probably the best player I've ever seen. That's my 5.
That's a good 5.
That's a good 5, Charlie. I reckon I'm going to come at a little bit. Oh, yeah, it's a good 5. I'm going to come at it from a different angle, though. I think these 5 players that I'm going to name can take a bit of criticism and have done things outside of the football field that have helped the club. And I'm going to start at 5 with Lachlan Kellogg.
Interesting.
Obviously, Lockie hasn't played as much footy as he'd like. I think the last 3 games he's played, he's done a hamstring in all 3 of them, which you can relate to, Charlie. But there was a game at Glen Huntly Oval where we were kicking against the stiffest breeze. It was sort of blowing towards a pocket. And one of the young boundary umpires for the opposition, he would have been 15 or 16, he couldn't throw the ball in. So Lockie, he was boundary umpiring the other side of the ground. He sprinted across when the ball went over the line and told the kid to take a hike. And he started tossing this ball in 60 metres, getting the ball flowing. We ended up winning the game by 4 points or something like that. And he probably had Lock to thank for that. But he comes in at 5. Number 4, I'm going to throw Isaac Morrisby. I think he's a handy player as a coach. When things aren't going well, you can really point the finger. He does a few things on the field that they're likened to Matthew Richardson back in the sad days at Richmond. He threw the towel in every now and again.
Emotional? Yeah.
Very emotional. Yeah, he wore his heart on his sleeve, and I think that's what we also love about him.
Second year, Moz. He looks a bit lackadaisical at times.
He does. Yeah, too lackadaisical sometimes, but that's Moz. Number 3 for me, a pretty obvious one. I think Alex Lowe, one of my favourites. He has the ability to make a mistake and then compound that by making another one and another one and another one, and just keep building those up until he finally hits the target. And I love that audacity to just keep taking the game on. Number 2, I'm going to throw in Damien Simic. There aren't many players that play and do something team orientated and want to get taken off the ground to ask the coach whether they did the right thing. So he's a really good one, Charlie. I know you know.
Yeah, the Damien Simic story. Sorry to interrupt your five, mate. By the way, it's a great five. There was a game out at Mazenod at Central Reserve. One of the grimmest Saturday afternoon setups of all time. Was cold and wet, middle of winter. Mazenod, just heaps of chunky blokes that are no good, but just kind of run around. And anyway, we were down by, I think, 9 points, and Damo I don't think he'd been on since the second quarter. He'd put the jacket on. Punchy he'd forgotten he was playing. He was warming the bench right up. Anyway, for some strange reason, Punchy calls him back on. The jacket comes off. He's still having a bit of a sook. He's been off for 3 quarters. Kicks 2 of the great last quarter goals. One of them over his head, I believe. And we go out and we win by under a goal. So I can understand why he's in your top 5, because that was one of the great last quarter performances. They were all saying it doesn't have to be a game, but it can be a moment or something like that. That was the perfect example of that quote.
100%. He has that in him. I'm telling you, he has the way to just win games, even though he hasn't been there or been around the ball. He can just find it in the last quarter and do something special. And I think that's a great segue into my number 1, Damien Hay. He kicked one of the greatest, or 2 of the greatest last quarter goals. I think it was last year against Uni, who were undefeated up until about round 6, and Moss came in and kicked 2 of these snaps in the last quarter and celebrated like a man possessed. And I think we actually dropped him the next week. I can't remember. But that's irrelevant. The way he took it on himself and kicked those goals and got us into a position to win the game was quite remarkable. And I think the way that he attacks the ball epitomises the way we like to play, and that's why he takes the top spot.
The great thing about, I'd imagine, for you, Seb, is that Mossy can take criticism from the coach. Like when you send a message, it's coming back, isn't it?
Well, I know if I've sent the right or wrong message out, because he'll absolutely let me know. And there's been times where him and I have almost come to blows on the sidelines, but I think we keep each other in check, and that's just part of coaching. You got to deal with your players as you see fit.
2 excellent top 5s there, fellas. Mine is slightly different as well. I've got, as I'm the oldest of the 3 of us, I've gone with a bit of the older generation. Most of these blokes, well, all bar one have retired, and I'm not sure whether the last one is how much more he's going to keep going. But I'll get stuck into it. My number 5 is Callum Sinclair, the big chief. He played for the CGFC 2008, 2009 in the under-19s, kicking bags in the 19s. Obviously, he's gone on to do great things in the AFL. And yeah, his family, Sinclair's got great ties to Caulfield. But yeah, Cal's just a man who bleeds Caulfield grammar and CGFC as well. So go with Cal. Number 4, I'm going to go with Geordie Stewart, another great mate of mine. And he was the one I was talking about, Buckets.
Buckets!
Those clunks, fullback of the century, Sauce Silvani, back with just golden fist, golden hands, and golden features in the face as well.
Yeah, beautiful.
He's number 4. Number 3, mentioned earlier, Simon Widjaja, big Widja. He's just an incredible player. You never want anyone more than Widja going for the hard ball at ground level. Incredible leader of men. Number 2, I'm going to go with Ben Carboni, also mentioned earlier. Just like insane the way he used to go about it on the field. Just as you mentioned before, like hamstring off, he's still going. He's a very, very tough man, Carbs, and a very skilled operator as well. Number 1, I'm going to go with Tommy Sundberg. He's my favourite player to commentate. Tommy Sundberg is my favourite player ever to commentate. And one of the best and fairest at CGFC as well before moving up to Sydney. Just a terrifically skilled man.
Yeah, I like that list one. I think all those lists show the diversity within Caulfield and the nature in which we can put different people on the park and still ultimately achieve the same goal. And there's a lot of guys that play in different positions and play a different style, but they all play the one team style, and that's been really successful for us over the past couple of years.
Let us know your feedback, podcast listeners, if you agree with our top 5, if you think they're crap, if you think Widge should have been 1, Flanas, I reckon Widge could have been a bit higher, mate. But yeah, let us know. Let us know how we go. We'll be ranking some more things in the coming week. So feedback is always great.
Yeah, I do tend to play favourites. Sorry, Widge, if you are listening to the inaugural episode of the CGFC podcast. All right, next up on the show, Chaz has got a new segment for us, mate. What have you got for us now?
Another new segment.
Another one.
Another new segment. Surprisingly, we've got a few new segments tonight, but this segment, boys, I'm guaranteeing you will be a fan favourite. I've called it Phone a Fieldsman, and it's very straightforward. What'll happen is I'll randomly call a fieldsman who is in my phone book. I'll put him on no caller ID so they don't know that I'm calling. But essentially, I'm just going to give him a ring, hit him with some quick fire questions. Not going to muck around and ask how their day was or anything like that. Just going to go straight in. If they can answer the 3 questions, then they'll get a CGFC prize.
Ooh.
Not really sure what that's going to be yet. I haven't ticked it off with the prayers, so I've just made this week's 3rd question basically impossible. I don't think there's any way that our Phone a Fieldsman will get this tonight, and if he does, then fair play to him. But that's how it's running for the moment.
So who are we calling first,
Yeah.
Chaz?
So I thought first episode, big episode, you got to go with the big guns. We've had Will, we've had Toni. So I'm going to be calling Jared Russell. He's been very active on Facebook tonight. So if he doesn't answer my call, I'll be pretty concerned. I also forgot to mention that if they don't answer, then we're just going to go to next week. Like, there's not going to be a Phone a Fieldsman. Like, that's
So there's no follow-up call. We're just calling it at a no answer.
We're going to call it at a no answer. That's part of the
Does the prize double to next week, or do we just keep giving the same prize?
Absolutely, it does. Of course, it does. Yeah, that's a
Terrific.
great call.
Yeah,
I love it, love it, mate.
So it's a bit of a risky segment, this one. We could get anything. Hopefully, Riss answers. I'm sure he will. Usually, the no caller ID can turn some people off, but I'm thinking that Riss is the kind of bloke that he'd answer it, I reckon.
Yeah.
But,
All right.
Anyway,
Well, let's give it a ring.
Come on, Reese. Answer.
Yeah, we need this. He's got it, doesn't he? Has to.
Oh, no.
Come on.
Come on.
Oh, looking good. Oh,
Jared,
it's his message bank.
can I take your call?
Sorry, he didn't answer.
That's a disaster. Do you call him back?
We'll call him back.
Surely one. We do 2 calls. If it doesn't work on the second, then you call it.
Usually 2 calls, you would think, fuck, I better answer this.
Hello?
Is that Mr. Russell?
No.
Oh, sorry, mate. It's Chaz, Gotchy and Flanas from the CGFC podcast. How you going?
We've got him, boys.
Oh,
How are you, lads?
we're good. We thought you weren't going to answer there, so we had to do the old double call.
No, I don't like the private numbers. I'm a bit sceptical.
Yeah, we were saying that. That's a risk
What
to my
is
new
that?
segment. Phone a Fieldsman. Mate, you're the inaugural Phone a Fieldsman recipient. How do you feel?
Oh, jeez. Pressure's on.
Pressure's on. And we'll get straight into it, mate. I've got 3 questions for you.
Okay.
And all pretty straightforward, mate. I reckon you'll get all 3 of them. If you get all 3 correct, you win a prize.
Lager.
not-
Secondary lager.
It could be not yet determined. I'll have to touch base with Peter. But are you ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. First question: what colour do you get when you mix blue and yellow?
Green.
Correct.
Good start.
You know that, Gotchy? I reckon you would have struggled with that one, mate.
I thought it was red.
Second question: what size of paper measures 148 millimeters by 210 millimeters?
A4.
Incorrect. It's A5.
Yeah, he went too early. He went way too early.
But because
I'm
I
under pressure.
like a bit of drama, I'm going to go all or nothing and see if you can get the last question. How does that sound?
That's very generous, chap.
Okay. You ready for the last question?
Yep.
What is the capital city of Nigeria?
Nigeria is the country, so
Correct.
Capital.
That's why it has a capital city. You've gone that far.
Yep, correct. Yep.
Mm,
First part of the question, right?
Can I get a hint?
It starts with the letter A.
Angolia?
Absolutely incorrect, Rhys. It's Abu.
Yes. One from three. One from
I'll
three.
the drama for next week.
No, you've been a great host, mate. And anything you want to say to the CGFC community while we've got you?
I just miss all the boys. Miss Gotchy's drills.
No, you don't.
Is Greeny on there with you?
Nah, Greeny's gone to the
God,
Qgo.
no.
He's
Shout
left
out
us
to
there.
Greeny and love to Flanas, please.
Love you too, Reese. Love you, mate.
There you go.
I look forward to the segment.
All right, see you, Rhys. Have a good night. Thanks for
See
answering.
ya, chap.
That went pretty
Wow.
Go, Reese,
Charlie,
our
one-
first guy to Fieldsmen.
1 from 3, a little bit like Keegan Stewart's goal kicking in most first quarters of games, I reckon. But all in all, a pretty good outcome, I reckon.
I think that went remarkably well. I'm happy to get feedback from the podcast listeners, but I reckon that could be on next week. I don't know if it's going to get the cut yet.
It gets thumbs up from me, mate. I love it. That was the first Phone of Fieldsmen segment. Charlie Logan, very well done. Very well hosted there. And Jared Bristol, thank you so much for your time being thrown under the bus there at no notice and getting involved in the CGFC inaugural podcast. All right, boys, that'll do us. I reckon this has been the first episode of the CGFC podcast, the official podcast of the Caulfield Grammarians Footy Club. Make sure you check us out on all the social channels, iTunes, Whooshkaa, YouTube, Spotify, and keep up to date on Facebook and Instagram. My name's Toni Flanagan, Charlie Logan, and Seb Gotch. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you, Flanas.
Thanks, Flanas. Great start, boys.
Been a pleasure. We'll see you next week. Count the fields.
Down the field.
Go Fields.
Whether the odds be great or small, the Fields will go in and win overall. While her loyal sons are marching onward to victory.